So it is January 29th, 2021, and I am thrilled to be joined by St. Louis's own Mastermind, one of the most inspiring musicians in town, somebody I've been following since I moved here, since I heard him featured on a friend's track and saw him performing at the Luminary on Cherokee. He's coming to us from the Gems XR, and tell us about that, man. Tell us about the space you're in right now, because I know this is kind of a new venture you're participating in.
Yeah, man. I mean, to be honest, at times I'd be like, "Yo, it's kind of surreal to be in a artistic manifestation." You know what I'm saying? This is a warehouse spot that we renovated, and it was funny because when you came in here, this mug was grungy, bro. Like, it looked pretty rough. I think I actually showed you. You know what I'm saying? But I stuck to that vision. Me and my partner Brian, and we just stuck with it and stuck with the energy of like, yo, this is gonna be like this. We're gonna have astroturf on the ground. I thought I was wilding with having like turf for 2 seconds, and I was like, Mo, stick with it. You know what I mean? And everything that we stuck with, it came to life on an even higher level. This place is really special, man. And I state that from a very unbiased spot. Like just watching it all magnetize and come into play. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I caught the first. I mean, I think it was the first show you had this kind of augmented reality show on Facebook Live, maybe some other platforms, but super cool, man. I'm really excited to see what other kind of concerts happen there, what other kind of artists maybe will be using the space. But kudos, dude! Like huge props that you were able to bring that to fruition, especially in the quarantine like lockdown, like that you actually like went to work and built something. A lot of people just kind of pieced out, so that's really cool.
It was a blessing that I was able to, honestly, to have community to be able to put it into play. Whether that was like just having really good conversations, bouncing back and forth with other inspiring creatives to keep my flame lit. Whether that was like working with other people who actually were helping hands in this space. Yeah, yeah. I'm gracious, bro. So
Very
yeah.
cool, man. Well, thank you so much for sending me this playlist. It's a massive playlist. I'm super excited to share it. It's like 2.5 hours of music, and I've been listening to it like nonstop since you sent it to me about a few days ago, maybe a week ago or so. But man, like I'll be digging into this for like weeks, months. I've been listening on headphones. I've been listening in my car. I always love how this stuff is mixed differently for different kinds of situations. And I've found personally that it's got really good like car mixes. So I've been jamming it a lot in my car. But I want you to tell me more about like the vibe of this playlist, like what you had in mind with, first of all, this like 2.5 hours, which is just incredible. But like just overall, what were you thinking when you put this all together?
I mean, so recently, once I became a title, uh, a title member officially, like I've really been getting into my playlist bag and like curating particular playlists to like shape my day. You know what I mean? Like I have my Grand Rising playlist. I have my playlist for I'm over here cooking food for my son. You know what I'm saying? Or like my playlist for I'm about to wind down and chill with the lady. Just like started curating these particular playlists, man. And so as far as this one in general, I wanted to kind of give a full gist of like what would be my whole day. You know what I mean? And not just majority of my playlists, they are for sections and pieces of my days. But this one kind of goes through the arc. And that's why like it starts off with the Roy Ayers I'm Your Mind Part 2. And what better way to start your day with a healthy exchange, a healthy spiritual exchange, mind bending exchange with your mind. I that I think the first time I heard that track, I shedded a tear. And it was like it was just so refreshing to hear this healthy conversation that they were having with their mind, and that is something that I have shaped and molded into my life and my reality. I'm still working on it, you know what I mean? But it was it's I felt heard listening to this song, you know what I mean? And my mind was like, "Yo, you need this." So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's
what
amazing. That's no, I didn't even think about that, but that's like a thread through a lot of this music. Actually, it's just like this idea of like uh, kind of like getting right with yourself or something, and so you can have positive relationships with all the people around you. It comes up in a few of these tracks, which is like a super cool concept. I didn't even put it together until right now, but that's amazing actually. And now that you describe it as like the course of your day, it makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
Super cool.
Yeah, man. I, I love like everything that Real Ayers does. Period. So does so much of hip hop. We've always have re recycled and refunneled his core progressions. Just everything, man. So that's big for me. Um,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like if I could take it to the track that you put of your own music on this playlist, which obviously I've been a huge fan of yours since, like I said, since I moved here a few years ago, and you recently put out some music which is just incredibly high level, high quality. You included one of your tracks on here, even though like your whole record could go on this playlist like seamlessly and just and totally be awesome. But the OMW on my way track, I hear that influence that you're talking about. Like there's a lot of really cool like R&B, soul, funk, jazz, 70s, and you hear it in this playlist with the Roy Ayers, the Dee Williams, the Lonnie Liston Smith, Caldera. Like hearing that stuff kind of sparse or in sort of sporadically put through this playlist, and then hearing it in your music, because your music actually has like incredibly sophisticated like harmony, melody. Like it's really in a way like vocal jazz. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
complex, But I wonder if you could talk about your track. I mean, we could have a whole conversation just about this track, but that
Yeah.
element for me, and then maybe just a little bit about, first of all, your the amazing vocals and the amazing vocal production. I mean, it's so melodic and so catchy. But then I have one little kind of geeky thing where I'm like super into the sound design and the hi hats,
Mm.
and maybe you could talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit too. But
yeah, man. I mean, so the track "On My Way" OMW, that was a part of the BEP, which is it's like the first part of the three-part LP project that wrote, mixed, engineered, produced itself with a gang of my awesome friends, all uh all in our own studio. You know what I mean? So this particular track, it was funny. This is a track that I actually forgot that I had worked on, and while I was working on the tail end of the album, I actually was supposed to not. I had vowed with my wife that I wasn't going to work on any new songs because I just had too many. And then this one popped up on my head, and I'm like, well, you know what? It's about you anyway. You know what I'm saying? So I went ahead and like flushed it out, but it came it came out so fast that like as soon as I recalled that I had it that day, I finished it the next day. You know, and I finished it that same day. But the melodies were it was it was actually just like pretty much me legitimately singing those melodies on my way back home to my love. You know what I'm saying? Like that. It was that same exact vibe of like you being. This was quarantine. This was the beginning of quarantine, and so it's actually just kind of funny because that's kind of been the gist for a lot of us, where it's like, yo, like the curfew's happening, and you're going out into the world to go get what you need to survive, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And at home is that love. At home is that energy you need. At home is that, what I mean. And so pretty much like that's what's on that track is literally straight from me, straight from like that love and that energy, which is why I think it has such just like a really good like hip hop serenade flow to it. You know what I mean?
for sure. That's really awesome, man. And so when you're singing these melodies, are you is there other music playing or like other beats playing, like other people's music that you're singing on top of, or is it just you alone like singing this stuff in your head and like imagining maybe some of the other music that might go with it?
I typically, since I happen to be like my own producer, let's say my own curator, because sometimes I'm not the one only producing the song. So since I happen to be my own curator, I'm blessed with the ability that I can leave the crib with at least some type of audio of something to be like, yo, let's just put that on loop. It's no drums. It's just it's just this little sound slither, and then I just be driving and I just be singing back and forth until something catches my ear, and then I'm like, yo, repeat that, Mo, repeat that. You know what I mean? Like kind of like producing the song in my head while I handle 80,000 errands and all of the different things it takes to be mastermind. And yeah, like
Man.
just recycling those sounds, man. And but in general, that's kind of like how my brain works, and I state that because I really can't wait to break down my production process. Because if you notice when you listen, I Mastermind just loves to refurbish and retexture and repurpose sound. I like to make beautiful melodies and things of that nature. I like to put it into the program and then just like stretch it, flip it, reverse it, throw reverb on it, just only take the tail end of the reverb, put it back in there, reverse it again, put some like that's my whole thing is just I just love to repurpose like this just and mess with the audio in itself. And that's pretty much what you get when you hear this song cuz the backing sound isn't really just like keys, it's like this little slither of just like sound glitter in the background. You know what I mean? Like kind of doing
Yeah.
thing, and it that mixed with the subs, it takes over the thing. But yeah,
Yeah, that's super interesting because it does totally sound like that. Like I was trying to think about it while I was listening. I was like, how do you describe like the background of this? And it has because there's all this like filtering and all this like texture, and there is chord progressions and stuff, but the sound of it is like very elusive. You can't just say like, oh, that's a guitar sample or that's like a piano sample that's been sped up or something. It has like a lot of I don't know how layered it is, but you can tell that it's been like highly like manipulated, which is just really beautiful and really like to me it's like writing for orchestra or something. It's like really symphonic. There's like this whole like these layers of three-dimensional texture that kind of like you can zone into or zone out of like and listen to it, which is super fascinating.
hey, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. It's funny because this is actually my first time talking about my production process, especially when it comes to my new project. And some of these newer songs. That's actually my first time talking about this period. So yeah, I'm excited because I I mean, me and my own book, I got a lot of respect for me as a producer because I I don't know. I love my own particular process. I am a fan of my own process.
Well, I'm honored that you're doing my little kind of like little venture here online and talking about your process because that's I could talk about it all day, like just ask you questions about it all day. But that said, we should zoom out, look at the like larger playlist because I can hear how these things relate to your music, or I can hear how maybe there's parts of it that are in your kind of like you talked about like your day, but there's a lot of this music on here. I would say is very melodic.
Mm,
It's very unique and very curated. Like a lot of kind of like unique samples and unique drum samples. Whereas nothing to me sounded like very super mainstream or super obvious. Everything had like a twist to it, that I really liked. And I like listening to those details. And maybe it's, some tiny little detail like the drum machine sample has like a combination of three of the sounds to make the snare or something, and it's
mm.
might seem kind of simple, but it's actually like very thoughtful and very specific. And I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of that in this playlist actually, that you have an ear for like that kind of creativity and that kind of like aesthetic curation, or it seems to be important anyway.
It it really does because to an extent those the people who think like that to me they remind me of the magical people in society because they don't exactly do what was already laid out for them to do or what you should do. But in the same boat, they didn't stray away from it so far that it's like, well, yo, what sounds are you even making? You know what I mean? But like, it's something to where it's digestible, but it's completely them. And for me, I've always felt like that was the coolest. That was my biggest fascination in music is when people take the concept of that genre or the concept of uh yeah, the concept of that genre, and then they begin to put their own small characteristics to it, and it just brings it to life, man. I used to be like super anti-industry at one point in time, you know what I mean? Where I was just like, yo, man, everybody's using Pachelbel's Canon to make their pop song, or like they just turning all hip hop into pop, and but like if you listen to On My Way, those are elements to where, like, we begin, there's certain big facets that I appreciate in the realms of commerciability and how it structures song and how it keeps it stuck in your head and how it makes certain things an amazing song. So majority of these songs on this playlist, they have a mixture of that. They just do it in their own way. They just do it in their own way. In their own way.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can think of like the second track on this playlist, just right off the bat, the Sacrifices track. Every one of the people that's featured on this track has like a super interesting vocal quality and super interesting way of producing their voice. And it's present like right away. I think it's Earth Gang who like immediately does this super fast back and forth, like left, right, pan vocal. I
Mhm.
mean, in my nerdy classical world, I'd call it like a hocket from like, wait, but like the way that it just like immediately gives you this visceral feeling of like this single line broken up back and forth between the headphones, or the way that Smino, who has like a super interesting vocal style as well, super cool. Also, he's from St. Louis, but like the production on that is so unusual, and the vocal quality is so unusual, and they really like lean into that fact that it's different, and it just stands out immediately to me.
Man, it stands out completely, and again, that alone is why it's one of my favorites. But I feel like that the, it standing out is just a byproduct of them just doing. You know what I'm saying? So it works really well when it's a song that sacrifices. Because again, like after hearing everybody else's verses and then hearing J. Cole's verse at the end, and he came through with like I I felt his heart ripping through that mug, and it's like how can I block all day? Like it it really resonated with me on such levels, man. And that's it's it's the high energy for me. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
one
it's also cool that they do like it's kind of like a slower BPM, so it gives a lot of space for like double time stuff, or like stuff where they mess with halftime and double time, which I
yeah.
always like just geek out about. I think it's like super exciting when like the tempo changes in the flow of the vocals, even though the drums and stuff stay the same.
The drums went
Also,
crazy in there. Like
yeah,
that drum break was perfect. Yeah, yeah. It allowed for the cadences of the different rhythms and the triplets in the flow to be able to have their own particular pockets, man. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, very cool.
yeah.
Any other tracks on here that just immediately to you that you like stand out, or something that you really, if you're like listening to this throughout the day, ones that come around that you're like, oh yeah, this is one of my favorites right now?
There are a few in here. Well, this is more than a few. It's all up. So another one of my good favorites is Long Road, and that's a newer addition to like my recent playlist. It's actually a artist collaborator friend of mine named Najee Person. We used to do a lot, tons of music together. He moved down to ATL, but in the midst of that process, he dropped this track called Long Road, and listening to it, like I literally felt the entrancing long road that he was talking about, and which is the journey. You know what I'm saying? And like it's I love and he's one of those artist producers. So I love the artist producers because they do such a great job of producing their emotions
Mhm.
to go into the music, let alone just the lyrics. And so it's like you get this three-dimensional effect that kind of like carries you along. Yeah, I don't know. All of his music to me always sounds cinematic. Um, and that was one of those tracks that it just it resonates so much with me. As an independent artist, man, like or I mean, honestly, with anybody, a dreamer, a doer, any human being who is embarking on something that isn't frequently seen or frequently done too much, the journey in itself will be one that either have you ready to give it, call it a quits, or it has this windy road that you begin to appreciate every other little facet and things of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well said. And yeah, I had wondered how many of these people are people or people who have been in St. Louis for a while, or come from St. Louis, or parts of it like that. But
It's a
that's
mix.
super interesting.
It's a mixture, like, and I think the tightest thing is that it's a mixture, but my friends happen to be so tight, you would never know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, like that they're all throughout this list, but everybody just makes such quality music that it just flows. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Yeah, there was two tracks a little bit after that. One by Latrell James called "Run Forest" and SaxKixAve's "The Emotional One." Those two for me, like back to back, just like really like hit me. I don't know why, man. There's like a really, uh, I love the kind of like introverted, kind of super chill vibe of "The Emotional One," and I love the kind of weird little flute sample, and maybe like sounds like maybe a backwards acoustic guitar, but it has like it reminded me kind of like this music from the 90s. I can't even remember the guy's name. It was just kind of like this like acoustic guitar music with drums and uh but there's something about it, and then there's kind of like a voicemail kind of phone filter towards the end, and there's something about also just like hearing a voicemail that feels super emotional as well, or just kind of like it just has this really introverted and beautiful quality to it that I really loved. And then of course, like in Run Forest, I just love the hook of that song is amazing, and the title is amazing, and the way that it develops slowly with like unison doubled vocals, and then there's like harmonization, and then there's female harmonization, and like so like you just each time it comes back, it's like there's more people participating in this or something. It's like a really cool
Hmm.
developmental process. The vibe of that song.
It's funny you pick those two individuals because uh cats out the bag. Those are my artist industry friends slash like fellow people who we collaborate with. You know what I'm saying? So
It's
it's
amazing.
just like because it's like, man, I know some really amazing people who make such amazing music and who are still in the midst of the journey of getting their just do shine. Let's say, perhaps, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I find it like it reminds me of like any fine delicacy of a thing that is like kind of a rarity, and it's just like, look at this. You know what I'm saying? Like, it still gets its just due in particular conversations just like this because it has the level and respect of anything else, man. So no,
That's amazing.
shout out to Sax Kiss Ave, and to be for real on Sax Kicks Ave, those are all live instruments.
Really?
Yeah, indeed, indeed.
Whoa. I thought
Yeah.
for sure like that. Oh, man, I don't even know what that flute thing is. I gotta.
I mean, if anything, they sampled themselves. You know what I'm saying?
That's
But
amazing.
yeah,
Love it.
legit, legit.
Crazy, man. So another track that I mean, I don't know if you know Lakaylee 47, but this is another track. First of all, I love the whole look. I love the masks. It feels, obviously like I don't know if she was doing that before COVID, but it's like super cool now with COVID. uh, but I love the minimalism of this track. And there's a lot of tracks in here kind of going off of that Run Forest and the Emotional One. They have this like super curated minimal quality where it's like just these drums, just these samples, just this vocal, just this melody. Um, and what's really cool about this Zoom track, first of all, the vocal's amazing, but there's like later in the song, there are these low brass hits that come in. And because it's so minimal, when those happen, it's just like, oh man, it just like sends chills down my spine because it's so cool. It's like, man, I was not expecting that at all. I thought this track could have just been the vocal and drum machine basically the entire time. But then having the little brass hits to like elevate it at that point is just like, and it's this tiny little thing that she does, but man, it like I love that track. I've been listening to that track like nonstop. It has a really great video too, if you've seen it. But
Okay, I haven't seen the video. But I don't know how in the world she managed to like ignite that much energy just from that fist in my pocket. Dun, 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 dun.
yeah,
The second I heard the introduction, I flipped. I was like, yo, like I was in my room, like I think I ran it back like again. I was in the gym in here and like I was like jumping off the chair, just like turning up. It was like I love when artists are able to, especially melodically, are able to find certain inflections that would just press certain buttons to just activate you to just like your energy just lose it, man. And that was no, that was crazy. That was crazy. That's one of my favorites for real.
yeah, it's amazing. Love it. I've been humming that all day. I was actually just like trying to break it down, like to like try to like figure out technically like what is even going on there because it's super cool, super cool. Yeah, man. So I mean, I could talk about tracks all day. Like I got a couple more, but is there anything that like you were hoping to talk about?
Man, I so one of my particular favorite songs on here is the song "I Am" by Young Baby Tate and Flo Milli, and man, what's really tight is that I've been following this artist Young Baby Tate for a hot little minute, just her and her whole team, and just watching them. I've always loved her work, but this latest particular project, it just really did it for me. And what was so tight about it was that this song "I Am" is really like it's like quite the manifestive slash affirmation song for a lot of women right now. Like it's going crazy on TikTok. It's going crazy like all over the place for just like people being like, "Yo, this is me. This is my affirmation song." This track was my affirmation song. Like, before everything, cause like I was, regardless of anything, I was able to resonate just how like they were speaking life or what they were saying and how they was doing it. And it was just such a turnt track. And I've been a fan of Flo Milli for a little minute, and she sounded really great on this track. And I state that because she also sounded really great on this track for me as a listener who has his own curative palette of what I like to listen to. And so I don't know, like it was the perfect track. And it's only suiting that it's blowing up the way that it is right now because it's on a level of positive affirming. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like the track is called I Am, and it's yeah. That's
very
that
cool.
flavors. The beat is ridiculous too.
Yeah, and play and like going off that Code of the Friend track as well. Super moving and super cool. Like I feel like that everybody should have to listen to that track like just as an education. I mean, the vocals are amazing and like I'm just thinking about you, having recently become like a dad and everything and like the sample at the end. It's just with the young kid and everything. It's a really heavy and really like moving track.
It it hit for me, man, and it was deep because I suppose the reason why it really hit for me was literally the exact title. You know what I mean? It was Code of the Friends, and it was for Color Boys, and the way that the way that he wrote it spoke to me naturally because that's what it was written for with that intention. The same way with like where he's like, "Have your baby at home, kids," and all these other little different things. These were things that I were discovering as a man, as a husband, as a father of even how like the system is in the hospital and when it comes to the mistreatment of black women in the hospital and all these other different things that I wasn't even as hip to. And so for me as an artist who pushes love and light, you know what I'm saying, amongst other things, it was fresh to hear another artist fluently speaking on these type of topics because in reality this is our 99% day of life, and that's what we fill up with. So, no, shout out to Coda, because
Yeah.
he's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
amazing. Well said, man. Super interesting. Yeah, fascinating. Great track. Uh, so I have one other track that I really have been vibing, and that's the Gold Link.
Mhm.
Just because of the reggae vibe, and I just there's something about just a reggae vibe that for me you can't not smile. It's like just it has such a good feeling that groove. And I also love that he kind of like uses the full gamut of like the 808 kind of like drum bank sound machine. I mean, or drum machine sound bank. Like he has like everything in there. There's like clave, there's like the cross stick, there's the congos and the bongos. Like literally all of them at some point come into play in the loop, which I think is just like a really fun track. It has really good vibe.
GoLink is ridiculous with it, man, and like his whole curation has always had like that world vibe to it. I mean, naturally, with him being an artist from the DMV, like you can hear a lot of those influences, let alone if it's from like the go-go culture. I mean, the project itself is called Diaspora, and for me, I feel like it's a suitable name because it pulls from so many other different places and just yeah, make something really innovative, something really some s- chords and keys that connect with me that I didn't even know that would type vibe. Like GoLink really be putting it together.
Yeah, totally, man, totally. So like, tell us about like. So there's a couple like this. Aminé shows up a lot on this list.
Yes.
Um, J. Cole kind of a lot on this list.
Mm.
But I wonder if you could talk about them a little bit and the influence, but then maybe also just like take us out with chatting about Entrepreneur, you know, the last Pharrell track on here.
Oh yeah, big facts. So I don't know. I've always really resonated with just how J. Cole spoke and what he spoke about and who he spoke about it for. Those were always it. It was just a perfect page out of my book. You know what I'm saying? And the artist who he works with from from like when they did the whole Dreamville Revenge of the Dreamers and like watching them all like watching all of these artists get into the studio like man in reality J. Cole for me is like the model artist for somebody who was able to push his own platform, his own sound. He started off as his own producer, then he created his record label and began to curate phenomenal, ridiculous, amazing artists. This man deserves all his flowers from JID, Boss to the Hicks to everything. So I state that you're gonna hear a lot of that from that area because one of the artists who I have a high level amount of respect for artistically and business wise. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Aminé, he just dropped such a really fire project this past year, and I've honestly just kept it on repeat. I, for him, I love the way that he managed to make such a commercial record that was individually his own fingerprint. And that's that same conversation we were talking about, just as far as like, how do we make this amazing music that's going to resonate with the whole world and like really hit with those sonics that just that just sounds like that in the same sentence sounds like nothing you ever heard before. Stuff that sounds like nothing you've ever heard before, but something you heard before, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
To me, those are the artists who really do it, and that project was that. That project was that, man. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. I'll have to dig into the rest of that album just because there's so much, you know, 3 or 4 tracks or something on this list. So I'm sure I'll be actually all these tracks. I'm sure I'll be listening to the whole albums like later this month.
Yeah. Oh man. And so as far as, the entrepreneur, for me, this is my work day. You know what I'm saying? I am a full time I don't even feel like I can use the word full time anymore. It's like I'm overtime clocking in out here as an entrepreneur. But I am blessed to wake up in the morning and to dictate and decide my day, and make it all happen for my family and my team and my crew. Man, me and my wife is the whole household is entrepreneurs, and so that's just been really that theme song, man. Cause watching us bring all this stuff to life. Like we literally sitting in the gym right now. This place did not exist in any shape or form, and for a second, I didn't even think it was possible. So it's like tracks like Entrepreneur just be those little particular reminders, man, of like of the people of the entrepreneurs who really made their situations flip. You know what I'm saying? And they tipped the scale into their favor. So cheers to the entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Great playlist. Thank you so much. Can't thank you enough. Like I said, you're one of the most inspiring people to me in town that I'm constantly paying attention to what you're up to. And just the fact that you've built out this whole venue now, it's just like you're raising the level. It's amazing, man. But thank you so much for chatting with me today. We'll get this up on the website soon, and we'll put links to the playlist, obviously links to your website. And, you know, everybody should keep an eye out for your first EP that's been released, you know, a couple months, maybe a month ago or so, 2 months ago.
Big facts.
And
Two.
then I've heard the rest of the material and it's
Yeah.
lights out. So I'm super excited for the rest of it to come out as well. So
Yeah.
thanks,
Thank
man.
it's gracious to be here. I'm looking forward to watching this thing grow for real, for real. I love the concept and I love how you pulling it off. So yeah,
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
of course, of course.